Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the Chris Voss Show.com. Hey, we're coming here with another podcast, and I've got my good friend Jason Nunley with me here. How you doing, Jason?
I'm awesome.
All righty, man. So, what do you want to talk about this week? This week in tech or whatever is going on in the world, life, general?
Well, obviously we have to talk about Sony, and we have to talk about all the other nastiness that comes with that. But I wanted to talk to you about the questions I get. I was about to say the stupid questions, but they're not stupid questions. They're just inane to me and you. Every time this time of year, every year this time of year, people start asking me questions about it's end of year for business. It's Christmas time, gifting, toys, technology. People want my input. They still think I'm a computer guy. You know, you're in tech. You have to know these things.
Yeah, if you're in tech, you know how to do computers.
You know how to do. You work on computers, right? But I do know a guy who reviews a lot of stuff.
You know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy.
I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. But you review a lot of stuff, and I thought you and I should get together and talk a little bit about the toys, the gadgets, and quite frankly, you and I both do a lot of crap on computers. We should talk about good buying decisions, both for business and for personal purposes.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into North Korea.
North Korea and the Sony shutdown of the interview.
Yeah, first of all, I had absolutely no interest in watching that movie. It was going to be another terrible pineapple adventure take 5. A bunch of dudes got together, smoked a lot of weed, and wrote this terrible script, and then decided to make a movie out of that. But now I kind of want to watch it just to piss off Kim Jong-un.
It's interesting how many people really are rebelling against it. Like, people are like, I'll watch that movie and pay for it. Let's screw them. And it's interesting it could be a new way to sell. Think of it this way: maybe it's Sony's plot on a new way to get you to watch a movie. They say it's going to be censored, and then everyone's like, we're going to watch it. We're going to send in $5 and stuff for Ebola, and we'll watch it. And then Sony's just going to be like, okay, well, we'll go ahead and release it, and then later we'll find out the whole thing was a fucking ploy.
It'd be neat if it turned out to be although I think at this point the Justice Department might have an issue with it. It would be really neat if it were in fact a gimmick. But there seem to be some serious issues going on. Number one, Sony has some corporate secrets that they're very concerned will be exposed if they don't cater to the terrorist hackers. And that's bothersome. Imagine you're a Sony stockholder at this point, which obviously, let's be honest, that's who they're really concerned about. That's who they really want to protect. I have a hard time imagining they're concerned just about the safety of employees. They are a Japanese company, which I think is also important to talk about. They're not. A lot of people are irritated as if it were, and they had some American patriotic duty. They're not an American company, which makes them also more likely to suffer consequences. There's a lot of interesting stuff about North Korea and what they do. There's stories of Kim Jong-il's regime kidnapping Japanese actors and just all kinds of horrible stuff that happens in that region. I really think at some point someone's going to have to put a boot in this North Korean regime. I wish it would be China. I wish China would step up and take care of this problem since they're the ones protecting them. But it's going to be interesting to see what the American government does at this point.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I mean, I think, we haven't seen any emails that have been released lately, and I think what's happened is they probably had a back channel to Sony and basically said, look, we'll quit dumping your emails on the public forum if you don't release that film. That could be the only motivation I could see to them giving up $90 million in production for this film. I mean, we've already seen some pretty extraordinary private emails being shared. I can only imagine what treasure trove is in all of those emails, and there could be some pretty salacious stuff between people's mistresses, people's whatever, comments about Sony's politics, like what they think of Obama or something. That thing's like a ticking time bomb. And so maybe they just told him, look, well, if you dump the film, no more emails get released. And you haven't seen any more emails get released. So
No, I think it's obvious that it's a case of cyber terrorism, and they obviously cater to this group of hackers because whatever they have, it's worth $100 million.
The damage that you could do to Sony, I mean, it's already gotten a little bit of damage to it, but the damage, I mean, those emails, I mean, it looks like a lot of celebrities and people had access to the high levels of Sony's management, if not their CEO. I mean, the guy could be saving his own job, but I mean, he could be talking to, I mean, between talking to girls online, maybe cheating husbands, things. I mean, those emails could have just freaking everything in them. Even plans for future movies and stuff are in them. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot to have to write off. I think most studios go bankrupt if you wrote off $100 million, but or at least they used to have that. Yeah, I mean, that's whatever's in those emails. I mean, I certainly, like, you're probably the same way. I wouldn't want anybody to read them. Some of the stuff I've said on emails privately between friends or whatever. But I don't know. I don't run a multi-billion-dollar fortune company that, I'm responsible and behooving to investors either. So I probably wouldn't care as much as someone else does. But yeah, it's the kind of thing where if the way the emails are coming out, if they keep coming out, I mean, Sony's just going to be crippled. At least its movie division. They'll have to change the name just out of embarrassment.
Well, the interesting thing is, obviously, that's what we've seen so far, which is pretty bad.
Yeah.
I've actually, just to let you know, I've actually actively avoided reading news about this. I don't want to participate in the. Quite frankly, I find the news reporting agencies that have used information leaked by hackers who are working for a state-sponsored terrorist attack or state-sponsored, we'll call it blackmail. I'll quit calling it terrorism. It's not terrorism. It's blackmail. The threat of killing people on American soil is terrorism. I'm a little disgusted by that.
Wasn't there a thing where they threatened to have a 9/11 sort of
on American soil? Yeah, they threatened to attack movie theaters, and that's the part that, quite frankly, I find most disturbing. Personally, the American theaters that chose to close their doors, or that chose to refuse to show this movie, I find that very bothersome. And first of all, I don't think that North Korea has terrorists on American soil. I don't think they could have followed through with that threat.
No, but one element of that conversation is you always have the copycat wackos, and the copycat wackos will be like, coming out of the woodwork, and they'll be like, well, yeah, I'm going to do that too.
That's true. And I think it doesn't help that we recently had a case. Speaking of wackos, we recently had a case in the theater shooting at the Batman. Was that a preview, or was it the?
It was the movie Batman.
Yeah, it was But it was the premiere, or was it just showing a random night? I can't remember.
I believe it was the premiere. It was the opening.
It was the premiere, I think. So
it was the opening of the movie.
That's got to sting, and that has to be in the back of theaters' minds. Had there been any murder, attack, terrorist activity at all,
the theaters get stuck with it. In fact, the theaters in the Batman situation, from what I saw online, the judge ruled that they could have a class action going forward because the theaters had to know at some level that there was a potential for that to happen. They should have took better security measures. But it's like, what do you go to the movie theaters now, you're going to have to pass through a metal detector. Even this guy, I think he got in the back door through someone else or something. But they were found liable, and I think they probably had to pay some money, and no one wants to do that again.
No.
So, and the theaters, I mean, well, they may be hurting. I mean, Sony's a real loss when it comes down to it. I mean, they can just show another movie at the theaters, but
And for the consumer, let's face it, probably was not going to be that great a film.
I mean, there's a bunch of pot smokers don't get to watch the movie now.
Yeah, they just have to go home and eat pizza or something.
Yeah, God forbid. Not like they leave the house to go to the theater anyway.
So when this is all said and done, it's really a windfall for takeout pizza, for delivery pizza. It's really a windfall for home delivery.
Keep the stoners at home. That's really what theaters should do to bring people back to the theaters. Have bongs set up in the chairs and have hookah things.
It has digressed.
They'll let people sit all day getting stoned and it's in Colorado and California. They'll have people getting stoned all day. They'll never leave the theater. And they'll eat think how much popcorn you can sell to stoners.
It could sell $100 a day of popcorn to one pie a day.
You can make so much money. You can make so much money. I think we just came up with $1 billion idea there, Jason. We need to go out and get us some movie theaters and then put hookahs.
California, Oregon, Washington D.C. recently. Colorado. Yeah.
Definitely Colorado.
So, all right. It's that time of year. People start asking me, what kind of computer should have?
Oh.
What's that? Yeah, no, that happens in the rest of the months. This is December. So December comes along, and so here's two questions I get. The first question I get is, I'm buying a computer for my kid or my college student, or it's normally someone in the family that needs a computer. And the second question is, it's end of year for businesses, so same thing. And I always encourage people to capitalize on the Christmas season discounts, because come mid-January, there's nothing left. All the deals are off the shelf. Business prices resume to normal, which are normally inflated. So what are you seeing this year, and do you think it's any different than every other year? What are they looking for?
What are people looking for?
Yeah.
Let me answer that question, but let me dial back just really quickly to what we were talking about earlier. I do believe that, we've been waiting for cyber terrorism to really take a foothold and do something. I think the Sony case is the 9/11 of cyber terrorism, and we're going to see more of it. And it doesn't help they're caving, because it's going to encourage every little shithead in the world to start, hey, really? Whoa, we can shut down movies. Except
guys like me have been dealing with this since like the 90s. Yeah.
But I think it's gonna finally become a reality, and somebody just got a really good blueprint from the Sony experience of what you can do. I mean, the thing about the Sony experience too was, companies like Snapchat were connected to those emails, so it wasn't just about screwing Sony. It was screwing whoever emailed Sony. I mean, can you imagine sitting around knowing you emailed the Sony CEO and you're like, oh man, I used the N-word in that email. Oh, that's gonna eventually go. I sent the CEO my naked pictures. Oh, so I really think this is the forefront of the new cyber terrorism. I mean, it's been going on for a long time, but I think this is a new turning stone. This is a new 9/11 Pearl Harbor sort of thing, where we're entering that zone where all of our lives are online and all of our lives can be held hostage online.
So we make three points. One, 1990, I believe it was 99, we were attacked by a rather sophisticated hacker. It was us. There were some ISPs in the southeast that were attacked. I think it seems like it was Earthlink or Mindspring was one of the other companies. I know it was somebody at Georgia Tech University was involved in some of the email going back and forth about this guy. He was just beating us up, giving us a really hard time. And I collected a lot of data, a lot of information, called the FBI, tried to be helpful, tried to explain that this kind of behavior was not just a nuisance. This was the kind of person that was seeking to do real damage to people. The FBI came to my business, and they basically told me, tough. We don't really care about you. if it had attacked a government institution, then we might be interested. But you're a private company. This is your problem. So I destroyed everything. Dramatically changed the way I approach security in my business. Haven't had a similar circumstance since because I've changed the way I approach security in my business. And it was around 6 or 8 months later, they finally reviewed the logs I gave them. They found it way more interesting because they realized that the guy was using private internet service providers and systems that they had hacked in hosting colocation services, and were actually attacking military institutions, which they found completely uninteresting until somebody decided that this might be a problem, that maybe stealing nuclear secrets was actually of some concern. This is a long time ago, and the government has consistently been uninterested in the security of individuals. If you get your information stolen, they're not that interested in helping you out. You get your identity stolen, they're not that interested in helping you out. There's really very little top-down interest in personal security. It's interesting to me that until people get hacked, and I was the same way. I ran an internet service provider. It was a technology-based business. We were very sophisticated until it came to avoiding hackers or defending against hackers. And this has been something that I've been talking to people about for a long time. I'll give you one example: banking. There's no security in banking. There's just not. Checking account numbers. You get an ABA routing number and a checking account number. This is a string of numbers, and virtually anyone in the world can print a check and process it. And unless someone catches that before the money is gone, it's just free money. And there are all these processes that should have been hardened a decade ago need to be considered now, and should have been considered before now. And Sony is a prime example. Snapchat they get exposed in this email scandal, but the funny thing is, Snapchat's a prime example of someone who didn't care about security. They were told by a security hacker nearly a year before this third-party website that allowed people to post Snapchat photos captured tons of nude photos. It's interesting to me that no one takes this seriously until they personally get attacked, and then suddenly security becomes a big issue. And Sony's a big public company, and so now this is on everybody's tongue. But this has been a problem for a long time. I've been watching hackers from Russia, hackers from Eastern Europe, hackers from to be honest, I haven't seen that much coming out of mainland China, but lots of stuff coming out of Asia. And I've been defending against this for more than a decade now in my endeavors. And it's interesting that companies as big as Sony, companies as big as Snapchat, took no interest whatsoever in cybersecurity. And interestingly, Sony doesn't take any responsibility for how slack they were protecting those email. And nobody takes responsibility for the fact that they basically opened doors. And Snapchat, Snapchat exposing those nude photos, they take no responsibility for that. Well, we're victims. You're not a victim when you were told a year in advance that this was a problem.
Well, that's why the Justice Department settled with them on that. What is it, like a 99-year probation that they're on or some shit?
Well, and I tell you, one of the guys that you and I both know that I think has one of the right approaches to this is Robert Scoble and his idea that there is no privacy, and he lives wide open, and he's got his stuff just all over the place. He talks about personal things in a way that most people wouldn't dream of. And there's something to that. There's something to taking that power away from the cyber terrorist.
Well, and then you shouldn't put something on an email or a text message that you probably wouldn't send to your mama.
Or a Facebook message, which I posted about not too long ago. If you're in a group Facebook message, you should understand that's not a private conversation.
Yeah, there's Mark Cuban's thing and a few others, I guess, that are coming around now where they don't store your conversations or your. In fact, Mark Cuban says when he talks to the Sony CEO now. They use his app, and it pretty much whatever you say disappears. I've told a lot of jokes to a lot of friends that, taken out of context, look really bad. And I think we all do that. Especially if you were to take it out of context and cut it up, you wouldn't see the whole thread of, what the bid is. And so, so I think, it's definitely weird. I think a lot of these kids nowadays are really adapting to it. They're using Snapchat. They're using services where their messages can disappear so that colleges can't hurt them, future employers can't hurt them. I think they're pretty wise in what they're doing, and I think maybe that's the future, where we're just gonna have to really lose a lot of sleep about what we do.
Or not, and don't
Or
care.
not.
So,
getting back to your question about what's going on with the marketplace, I don't really know. I don't pay attention to prices of stuff. Whenever all I know is Christmas is a great time to buy something and get a good deal, and I don't know. It seems like we've come out of the recession and people want to buy stuff and everyone's having a good time. I guess everyone's got jobs now too. So
$3 gasoline doesn't hurt.
Oh, dude, we're at $2.55 at one of our Arcos here in California.
That's awesome.
I just sat and looked at it and just went, it's probably been like 20 years since I've seen that. That's weird.
It's been more than a decade. It's been a long time since $2.55 gasoline.
Yeah, and it just keeps going lower. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, when America and OPEC get together to beat up on Russia,
and Iran.
We're all benefiting.
Yeah, and it's really not even us. I mean, Saudi Arabia's just doing it on their own. They're sick of Iran's shit, and they don't want Iran to get nukes, and they're sick of Russia's shit, and they're just kind of doing it on their own. We're just kind of a side benefit. Venezuela's getting fucked. Brazil's getting fucked. But
do keep in mind, we are producing 100% of our oil use right now. 100% of American oil utilization is being produced on continent.
Well, you know what the problem with that is right now, don't you?
There's a problem with that?
Yeah.
What is it?
The problem with it is, and this is what wiped out the oil industry back in, what was it, the 80s? Yeah. Was the prices now dropped far enough where the investors and the people who are running those oil rigs in North Dakota, it doesn't make sense for them. I think someone was saying the price point where they take on losses is about $3 per gallon. And so now they're getting screwed because by producing, they can't sell what they need to pay their costs.
So most of this is coming from shale oil and fracking.
Yep.
Technology that Halliburton created. So you're saying that at a $3 price point?
I don't know what it is exactly, and I imagine it's different from every invested corporation and what they spend, per well, et cetera, et cetera. But the overall gist of the article that I'd read said that about $3 was the break-even point for most of this new generation of oil producers. See, what people don't realize is it's very profitable for them to make oil locally. They don't have to ship it from frickin' the Middle East in giant tankers and then have it offloaded here and refined and everything. It's much cheaper to make it here, and so it's more profitable. But it's only profitable at the higher prices that people are paying. So once the price drops, it's like, I don't know if you remember. I think China, back when U.S. Steel was still in business, they started flooding the market with cheap steel just to put all the steel makers out of business, and they did.
Right.
Yeah, and it's basically that game. So we're enjoying the prices, but the problem is there's going to come a point where, I guess, I don't know, whatever Saudi Arabia is going to put Syria and Iran and Russia on the fence, which they're doing. The ruble just dropped huge. People are now doing panic buying and buying goods because prices are going up. In fact, you can't even, they just like doubled or tripled an iPhone price over there. But it's interesting that we're benefiting, yeah. But the problem is it's going to put all those oil makers out of business up in North Dakota the further the price drops. And then what'll happen is Saudi Arabia will have us in the balls again. But once they wipe those guys out.
Yeah.
Same thing that happened in the 80s, pretty much. I mean, I remember going out to Vernal, Utah, and the oil business was huge out there, especially coming in and out. And I mean, just the whole town was run by oil. And then, we had all the stuff go on with oil and stuff. It just wiped the whole town out, wiped the whole industry out. And so, it's one of those things where we're going to win on one side, but then we're going to get screwed on the other.
Well, that's the cycle of the market. It's an interesting, even government behavior is a part of the market.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it as a cyclical thing, but that doesn't mean much when I got to fill up my tank. I'm just glad I don't drive an expensive car. I remember this lady one time, she came in and to the gas station and she had like one of those big Chevy Cadillac Suburban type things. They used to be back in the day. Escalade. She had an Escalade. And she comes in and she's like, holy crap, $75 to fill up every other day. I'm just like, well, maybe she could get a cheaper car. God damn, $75 every day for gas? That's insane. Get a Yugo.
When it went over $4 a gallon for gas, I can remember, you remember when the H2 and the Hummers, when Hummers were hot. I knew people in town that had Hummers, and I can remember seeing them on sale on the side of the road. Hummers for like $5,000, $6,000.
Yeah.
These are $100,000 vehicles 2 years before that, and they were dumping them like bad habits.
Well, they get like what, 4 miles to the gallon or something?
On a bad day, yeah, it's between 4 and 8 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then depend upon your tires, I suppose. But yeah, it was insane what we did, and we just go back through it. But I don't know. What can you say? It's
I never did it, by the way. I went through a stage where I liked driving trucks and I like driving bigger vehicles. And the first time, when in the late '90s, when the gasoline prices went up, I made a decision I wasn't going to be buying any more big vehicles. And everything I've had since then has been pretty efficient.
I remember the first BMW I bought. I put like 10 grand cash down and then had it on a 3-year lease, so my payments were like $1,400 a month or something. I was trying to pay it off quicker so I could move up from a 5 to a 7, and I paid like all this money for this fucking car. And I remember getting to the gas station and I was trying to shove the regular pump thing into the hole and it wouldn't go in the hole. And I'm like, the fuck want to go in the fucking, what the fuck? And someone came out and they go, you have a BMW that runs on premium. And I'm like, holy shit, I paid all this money and now I got to pay all this money in gas? Holy. That was one of those aha moments. You're like, oh, fuck.
I filled up my wife's car last week and it only runs on premium.
Yeah.
It didn't hurt that bad last week.
Well, yeah, now, jeez.
6 months ago, it would have been pretty painful.
Yeah, I mean, we're technically 50% lower than where we were, I don't know, a year ago or whatever it was when it was normal. I don't pay much attention to gas prices, but yeah, now every time I drive by a gas station, I'm like, really? What have I gone back in time? It's like, and it's kind of funny. It's like, how low can it go? I guess the Saudi Arabians really want to hurt the Russians and the Iranians. They're sick of Iran's BS. They're sick of the ISIS crap. And so they're just like, fuck everybody. We're just going to dump the price and screw the world. So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out, how they get their way.
Yep. All right. Well, ain't toys.
Toys, I don't know. I've got the... I do have a really cool toy here. I've got
The Hero
this is
4.
the this is the new Hero 4, and it's really cool. They've changed the kind of the features of it. Let's see, show you in Hero 3 so you can see. They've kind of changed the upfront screen, of course, here, taken away some of the lights, and then they've moved the. This has got a screen on the back, but they moved the battery to the bottom, which is interesting, and probably much better. It's got a better hook to it, holds together better than trying to take it out of the back. Seems much more efficient and easy. It's about the same size once you pull the screen off the back, so they didn't change much. What they did is they put more in it, so you can go to 4K at 60 frames per second, where the 3 Plus can only do 4K at 15 frames per second.
And we
so
should
not much
say
different on the body design, other than the battery pack on the bottom, which I like a lot better.
we should say that that's a GoPro.
GoPro
Hero 4.
Hero 4.
And I heard that you went out and had some dinner and recorded some stuff on your...
Yeah, it turned out really well. The problem was the audio didn't come out really well because we were in a restaurant and you could barely hear us. But yeah, we liked the audio. One of the challenges, I really can't see it because I don't have a 4K monitor. I did some recording of the dogs though that I put up, and I've had my friends that have the IMAX and stuff and the 4K TVs, and they watched it and they said it was just beautiful. And 60, or you know what, I may have said that wrong earlier. It's 4K at 30 frames per second, not 60. That would be even better, but it's only 30 frames per second. 60 is hard to do.
It's pretty though.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. I like what they did with it. It's very nice. It just seems to perform a little bit better. Has a little bit different menu system when I have the background screen on it, and it works through its menus. Seems like that could use some little software updating, but other than that, it's a rockin' powerhouse. Like it's been. I think they just get better and better with these things, and it probably helps that they're now public. But
it helps the lifestyle of the people who had stock, right?
Yeah, no kidding. The battery's very different. So you've got the battery's actually thinner than the old plus 3 batteries. So here's the 4, here's the 3. You can see here it's actually thinner.
So what kind of life do you have on that battery? How long can you record video?
I had it almost fully charged. I think it was about an hour and 5 minutes or something that I could do at 4K. I think the lower you go in resolution, maybe the more time you could get out of it. But it was about an hour or so.
Man, 4K is dense. That's a lot of pixel capture.
Yeah.
So let's talk about reasonable. Like, have you done some 1024 or 1080?
I haven't. I've done it, but I've never done like a time versus comparison between the things. Part of it is your battery's really going to die eventually. I haven't looked up what the difference is in the old batteries and the new batteries as to what I believe they did pack in more milliamp hours out of the new batteries. But I don't know. I got 1,290 milliamp hours on some third-party batteries I bought for the GoPro 4. I think the original one only has like 1,100 or something like that on it. Yeah, 11.
By the way, is that a lithium battery, or is that one of those composite?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure these are lithium polymers.
Polymer battery, okay.
It doesn't say on the other type of battery that I have from the 3 Plus. Yeah, I really like the GoPro. They've done a good job of it, and everything else. Yeah, it's a L-ion polymer battery pack with lithium ion. It does look like it's about the same milliamp hours. So basically, they've thinned it out and still maintained right about the same milliamp hours, which is pretty good considering, I guess, way things are going, where everything's getting smaller.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. Wow, they have a thing where you can send that out and stuff. Wow, that's pretty cool. The So what else do I have that's neat and interesting? I love the iPhone or the Samsung Note 4. The Asus Transformer book I've been playing with lately. I think I'm going to trade my iPad for this. This has been pretty cool. We've been doing their program with the 100 Thoughtful Acts. You can go to 100thoughtfulacts.com and see that. This last 4 weeks we've been promoting it. That's kind of cool. It's a separate tablet. It's a tablet that separates, and I don't see it here. Everything else. So.
By the way, for those people that have not yet bought one, I keep bumping into people that are Verizon users, and they keep talking about buying the iPhone 6 Plus, but this is that's actually an iPhone 6 Plus. But it is really big. I mean, for an iPhone person, that's my Mini, that's my iPad Mini, and that's my 6 Plus. And I don't use my Mini anymore because I have one.
Yeah, as soon as I went to the Note 3 and the Note 2, it pretty much killed my iPad use. And it occurred to me just recently, like a couple weeks after iPhone 6 launched, that probably the whole reason that Apple has just kind of fought to not expand the phone is because they know it's going to cannibalize their iPad sales for the iPad Mini and the iPad. I mean, the iPad Mini cannibalized the full iPad sales, so
right.
The iPhone 6 Plus is just going to eat it alive.
When I first got my iPad Mini, I loved it for a little, like maybe a couple of days for reading. You know, the apps are not that great still, and I would use it for reading, and it was a great reading utility device. It was okay for like Flipboard or maybe for reading, going through Facebook, but apps on it, quite frankly, they're not as mature as they are on iPhone. I got to tell you, as a developer, I find developing for iPad after the Plus came out really unattractive because there's so many features and behaviors that you can develop universally for iPhones, and I know that people who really wanted a bigger device now have an iPhone Plus or will soon. And I hate to say it, I hate to endorse it because, as you know, I like to complain. I much prefer to find things I hate or dislike. But I've had the iPhone Plus, and I had my iPhone 5, which is really old, my old 64 gig iPhone 5, and it was just acting up and it wasn't behaving properly. The iPhone Plus, the 6 Plus, has been flawless.
Yeah.
And I did get it right before the patch came out, the latest, I think 8.12. Runs like a champ, clean. I love the phone. I do have a complaint. The speaker on speakerphone is not loud enough. That's my only complaint. It's a good device.
Yeah, it's not all that great when it comes down to it.
Well, if you're on, this is an argument you and I will have on another podcast, but if you're on iOS anyway, if you're in the Apple ecosystem, which I'm partially beholden to because of what I do for a living, but it's a pretty good phone for an Apple product. The iPhone 5 and the 5S were not that great, and this is way better.
I don't know. I had a good time with them. I like my iPads. I mean, people always call me an iPhone or an Apple hater because I'm always bashing Apple, and I'm usually just bashing them on behalf of the consumer that they should get something that they're paying for, extra for actually. But I love my iPads. I have great things with my iPads. So anyway, I've got some guys coming to the house here, so I'm gonna have to wrap up with you, Jason.
Cool.
It's been a good talk, and we'll look forward to more podcasts with you, and we'll talk about more cool stuff. Tell everybody where they can find you on the interwebs.
JasonHacks.com is my personal website. Links out to everything I do from there.
All right, and be sure to give us a like, subscribe to us on the Chris Voss Show. You can even do fan donations if you want nowadays. Anyway, thanks for coming by, guys. We'll see you next time on the Chris Voss Show Podcast.